Tom Huet is producer, director, Bally, but you can find him all over the place. He is a longtime TV producer, director, and he's worked on so many different properties with so many different sports. So we're going to look at his career. This is going to be a lot of fun. I admire his work so much. I'm Bryan Fenley. I am a national anchor, Fox Sports Radio. This is the On to Something podcast. And Tom, I consider you a legend in the business. If I were to say that word to you, what comes to mind?
I'm not a legend. I'm just somebody that came around at the right time when this whole business was starting. And I was very fortunate to work with some very, very, how would you say, legendary people. I mean, legends in my business. I mean, I started with a job with ABC while I was in college. By Terry O'Neill's mother got me a job. Terry was a neighbor of mine back home, and his mother knew my father, and she was in the insurance business, and my dad was in the real estate business, and just said, "Hey, I understand your son wants to get into this business." And my son's kind of, getting going with doing stats on Monday Night Football and whatnot. And as we know, Terry became an executive producer at all three networks at one point in time. And he lives right now. He grew up about maybe a block and a half from my house. So the legendary Monday Night Football games that were played with Madden and those guys in our church, which is another block the other way on Thanksgiving, and that were, right in our neighborhood. So, I started with ABC and went quickly from being a PA to a graphics assistant. We didn't have computers back then, so it was all press type. And, I worked for Chuck Howard, and, Chuck taught me a lot of things that were good and bad, but people don't realize Terry was from Pittsburgh. Chuck was from Pittsburgh. A guy named Jim Bacata at TV was also a Pittsburgh guy. And, we started growing up in the business, and, we were doing 3-camera football games and things like that, and moved up from there. So, legends to me. No, I was just going to say legends to me on my side of the business. I grew up every night listening to Bob Prince do Pirate Baseball. I was fortunate enough to start right out of college. At ABC, I got to work with, Keith Jackson. I did second game ever for Jim Lampley and Don Tollefson as sideline reporters. I worked with Chris Schenkel, who I think is one of the greatest guys probably ever to live. What a great human being. And then I got pushed right in. When I graduated, I went right doing Penn State football. So I was with Ray Scott for quite a while. And Ray Scott taught me a lot of things about this business, and things that I remember to this day. And, I was just lucky. I part of that job, we represented athletes for the company I worked for, Total Communication Systems, which later became NEP, which we got started under our auspices. And, a guy named Nelson Goldberg there. And, I used to babysit Tony Dorsett, making sure he got to his speaking engagements because he had a habit of missing them. So I got assigned to that at one point in time. So, things went on, and then just kept doing things. I'm one of the few guys that probably has an engineering background and a production background. So like most people think, I'm kind of dangerous.
I love how I asked you what makes you a legend, and right away, Tom, you deflect and you go to everybody else. But that's who you are. That is your humility. And one of the things that I noticed that you were a part of, and speaking of football games, and certainly Keith Jackson and so many others that you got to work with and have been able to work with, the App State Michigan football game. I remember that as one of those that is probably one of the most exciting games of my lifetime, where App State went up to Michigan and beat them. You were in the truck. You were a part of this. What was it like from your vantage point, watching and being able to produce that memorable historic game?
Actually, I was with Terry Ewert was our producer, who had done many Olympics and executive producer at CBS and some other places. Great friend of mine. We get asked by Leon Schweier to come on as the lead team in the Big Ten, which I stayed for over 11 years as the lead director. People didn't realize that I took the announcers with me down on the field the day before in the big house. And Jerry, the coach of Appalachian State, came out, and I had done several of their games in the past couple of years leading up to their national championship runs. And I knew what kind of players they had. They maybe not have been, how would you say, world, Division I great guys, but, several of them are going to end up in the NFL, and had played at other schools like LSU and Georgia, and, had transferred there. So I just said to our announcers in the production meeting, I said, everybody's like, oh, okay, what are we going to do for film material and all that kind of stuff the next day? And I'm like, whoa, hey guys, I don't know what's going to happen here, but this team can play with these guys. And like on the second play of the game, pass over the middle, I see he's gone. I was telling the guys, the camera guys, he's gone, he's touchdown. And it became a battle at that point. And I always told Lynn Maines, who was my camera operator in the end zone, they lined up for the field goal. And it just comes to me like night and day, because I used to always, really ride my brother. My brother's a very good cameraman too. He's out on the golf tour and whatnot right now. But I always used to say to him, don't miss this extra point, don't miss this field goal. I'll kill you, Jimmy. My brother would always say, like, thanks, brother, over the headset with everybody here. Yeah. But anyways, I said to Lynn, Lynn, the left side of the line is not covered, which basically means there's no one to block the rusher on the outside, the linebacker. I said, stay down with your camera. Don't see, most cameramen got to anticipate the kick. So I said, stay down in the box and then follow the kick. Sure enough, the kid come off the side. He blocks it clean. I mean, just buries it, picks it up, starts running. And then I'm like, oh crap. You got to understand, you're in a big house. We had 2 sideline vehicles, but they can't move. And I moved all the cameras and stuff down there to the left side of the field because there'd be celebration and whatnot. And everything going crazy. Wow. I got a camera on the App State coach. I got a camera on Lloyd Carr, blah, blah, blah. He's running down. I'm like, I don't have any cameras down there. There's nobody to cover that when this kid goes hit, who's going to be celebrating all over the place. I'm like, oh, okay. Hey, camera 3, go get this guy, go get, and then, the game, Lynn's just following him right down the thing. And then I cut to their coach and he's happy and whatnot. And good friend of mine, Hammond Reynolds, had made a decision at Fox Sports South, which is now Bally Sports Southeast, said, hey, we're going to send a crew with App State because we had done the Southern Conference. They own the rights to the Southern Conference. We're going to follow them on the bus, on the plane, do all that. They have all this awesome footage. Wow. He had made such a great decision to go there. But what people also don't realize, that game was the inaugural game live on the Big Ten Network. And I'm hearing in my headset, because I always listen to the control point, CBS has just joined, ESPN has just joined, ABC has just joined. And we're like, man, they're going to be here for a while because this field goal is going to take time. They're going to call timeout, and not a one of them left. And they were taking our announcers the whole bit, and which was an all-star cast of announcers. It was Charles Davis and Tommy Brenneman and Chris Thompson, and they've all gone on to bigger and better things. And I hear in the headset, the stats guy, because we're doing the research, this is the biggest upset since Carnegie Mellon lost to somebody back in 18 or 19 or whatever the hell what it was. And I'm like, holy heck, that's a pretty big game. And it's in the big house. There's 113,000 people who are just stunned. I mean, they're just sitting. It was almost like the Michigan State-Michigan game, but the size of it, it was David beat Goliath. It was, App State. And I'm sitting in their truck with announcers afterwards going, told you so. Knew they could play with them. They got good players. And then it led to there was a series of upsets after that. I think James Madison beat somebody, and a couple other ones that that knocked off big time programs. There were FCS or FBS, whatever they call them now. But yeah, it was an exciting day. I mean, just to do a game, I think that, if I recall, I think it was the first game I ever did in the big house.
Wow.
And I've done, 100, I've done 300. I did all my numbers yesterday, 399 college football games in my career right now. So I am 10 short of Joe Paterno's win record of 409, which that'd be great to get. But anyways, I didn't think I'd done one there. But in the Big Ten, there's so many games, and I'd done games and, all over the SEC. I did that for 3 or 4 years. Did Conference USA, I did ACC, and then I'm thinking, big house, man. So you can't get, people understand, you can't get a bad game in the Big Ten. They're all packed. It's the same as SEC. These stadiums are packed. You can't get an air flight after those games because you can't get out.
Yes.
I mean, it's just one of those things. But it was pretty interesting. It just, the announcers covered it well, and I could, thinking in my head, and Terry's sitting there, coming up with replays and stuff. And I'm thinking back to with Keith Jackson covering this game, Chris Schenkel covering this game, guys but Ray Scott might have been, he was the best to me because Ray was a master of a few words. he would have just said, it's blocked. And you probably wouldn't have heard him talk for another 4 minutes, but the pictures tell the story. And that's why I started this shift in my career over to being more of a director, because I felt that I could put the shots up quicker, because I know the game, love the game, and try to meet and know a lot of the people that are in the game. So when it happens, I can kind of feel their emotions, their parents, I had a kid that played Division I, football at Penn State. I know what it's like to go through that as a parent. And, is it going to do this? Is it going to do that? What are they going to do? How you do this? And the dedication, the time you put into it. I just think I can get it quicker. I mean, we had a game the other night, phenomenal game. Memphis is down 7 minutes and 31 seconds to go by 16 points in the fourth quarter against Minnesota Timberwolves. That game goes to overtime, but Cat hits a shot from half court, throws it over his head, and it banks in, take it to overtime. And we're right on it. Boom, 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 boom. My guys, they've been doing it with me I've been here 21 years. It's like bang, bang. They know what to do. We know what shots to give them. And after the game, you're like out of breath. You're like, wow, that was pretty cool. And I tell the camera guys over and over again, 2 things. Know the sport you're covering. I don't ever want you to come in and say, well, who's this guy or who's that guy? I mean, we first come to Memphis. Give me a shot of Michael Jordan. No idea. How about their coach? No idea. He's only won 11 championships or 10 or 9 or whatever it is. Give me Shaq. Who's that? I'm like, guys, be that way. Because you know what? Just like Monday night, nobody knows when that time's going to come that all of the people that work for you, I just tell them what to do, but they got to be ready. I got to be ready. I can't have a bad, and number one thing in this business, get a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
I get a couple young producers now, and after a game, they look at me, go, how'd I do? And I look, I go, what time did you go to bed last night? I don't know. I didn't sleep much at all. And I'm like, you're no good to me if you're tired. You got everything involving. You have to weave a story with pictures and with the descriptions. And that doesn't come by being tired. And that doesn't come by not knowing the sport you're doing. Wow. So anyways.
Yeah, Tom Huet is with us. Of course, one of his jobs is with the Memphis Grizzlies, with them as their director in Bally. I'm Bryan Fenley with Fox Sports Radio. So a couple cool things that I extracted from your last comments. And I think about you, and there's this whole thing about how I think, for one, there's this really neat sibling rivalry between you and your brother that I got from, as far as the camera is concerned. And I want to attack that, because when you see what your brother does and then what you do, how much fun flack do you give each other? How much advice do you give one another? And how often, because both of you work in the business, do you try to one up one another?
Well, first of all, I got 3 brothers. Okay. Jimmy, the cameraman, they're all younger. Jimmy, the cameraman, Mom came to me after he got out of college and said, hey, he don't got a job. Can you get him something to do? I'm like, yeah, teach him how to be a camera guy. So he started on Penn State football, and, the rest is history. I mean, my brother's won, I don't know, he's got 6 or 7 Emmys too. And I think I have 11 or so at this point. And
how often do you remind him that you have more than him?
Oh, we go by big Emmys and small Emmys. That's what we do. So I got 4 big Emmys. And I got, whatever it is, 7 little Emmys. We call them regional ones. Mm-hmm. He's got, like, his are all 6, 7, 8, something like that. They're all big ones, because he does the Masters. He's done the Masters for almost 30 years. He does, the big golf tournaments. He does the big auto races. I mean, he's the guy at the finish line. He's the guy that runs the camera so fast. And I'll always remember a story with Jimmy. I put him on camera 1 at the Meadowlands Grand Prix one year. Director is Don Olmeyer. Don Olmeyer, to me, legend of all times. Love the guy to death. Great guy. Taught me so much about how to put a show together in your mind, how to do it. Like, you can't plan shows on paper. Get in the truck, know the sport, then it'll happen in front of you. Have the people that can cover it. My brother's running, they're going around, cuts camera 1, Jimbo, you got a blah, 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 and Don's, doing his thing. You got a Marlboro going on to one side, pack cigarettes in the back, just producer can't really tell him anything, because Don's controlling the show. Car goes by him, it's a white car, goes by another one. My brother goes with him. Don starts yelling, That's the wrong car. He's not the leader. He's not the leader. Hey, blah, 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 blah. And about 2 minutes ago, and all of a sudden goes, son, he goes, great move, Jimbo. He is the leader. And I thought after the game, my brother comes up to me, and I was the tech manager on the show, and he goes, I'm in trouble, right? I'm getting fired, right? And I said, I don't know. Don wants to see you, though. He went up to him, introduced himself. Don is like 6'4". My brother's like 6'5", big guys. He goes, Jimbo, gives him a hug, introduces himself. I'm Don Ohlmeyer. Introduces, he says, you will be with me from now on everywhere I go. And he's done senior skins with them. My brother's the infamous one in Hawaii on senior skins with Jack Nicklaus. It was on Super Bowl Sunday. Yells up from shots for $250,000. Looks up at Jimbo and goes, hey, Jimbo, what's the score of the Super Bowl? Calls it down to him. He goes, hey, shut up. This is for $250,000, Jimmy. And he gets a shot, He was with Arnold Palmer and them back then. But the other thing is, hold on, I'll get rid of that. Just a little bragging. My next brother, Johnny is just was named the Lucy International Photographer of the Year. He's probably the #1 sports fashion photographer in the world. But he is. He just won the award. He is the official photographer for the International Olympic Committee. He's been with them for like 16 Olympics. But he does all of the, you see Nike ads, Adidas ads, whatever. That's my brother. And the still shots. He's masters in black and white. He's had several books he has out and whatnot. But he's a good one too. He lives in Boston. And then my youngest brother, he's a smart one of the bunch. He retired already. He's 60. He retired. He was a corporate attorney for General Electric for like 38 years. And he was in charge of their emerging energy division. But before that, he was in charge of their media buys and leases and stuff. So he actually was the guy behind the equipment we were using. So he would call us and say, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? What do you think? So the four of us have been in the business, but I'm lucky. The lead producer of college basketball at ESPN is Eric Mosley. That's my nephew.
Wow.
Gary Brosnick, who's the lead visions and special effects guy for like Pirates Caribbean, Ron Howard and all them. He's their head guy. He's like the second or third credit you'd get on a movie. And he's done them all. Troy, Pirates of the Caribbean. He's done all the effects for the pirates run across the the water and all that. He did. That's my nephew. And we've been in the business a while. It's competitive, but we never get together at the same place. The son got to see Eric at the Little League World Series 2 years ago and took a picture together. And I'm like, hey, man, you guys ever think you guys would be together like this? Doing a major national show. If somebody in this business, if something's going on, a couple phone calls, we can figure out what's going on and try to be a part of it or whatever. It's kind of a neat thing, to go to the Olympics and have your other two brothers there, and the younger brother, he released all the equipment for us to use or whatever. So.
Yeah, I want to ask you about the Olympics, but as far as still photography, whether it's moving pictures, the Huet family has a dominion, a domination over that space. And I also, what came to mind is, we're talking a lot about football here, and Tom Huet is with us. I'm Bryan Fenley with Fox Sports Radio. Is that when you think about Tony Romo, he is notorious as a broadcaster for predicting what's happening beforehand. Mm-hmm. And from behind the scenes, and you being in the production truck, I feel like you have some Tony Romo qualities and Tom Brady qualities because of your excellence and what you do. But when you go back to the App State Michigan game and you predicted what was going to happen in a sense, and then when you're in the control room during games and you see stuff unfolding before it happens, you hear athletes say that over time the game slows down for you. When you are in the truck, does the game slow down for you as well? And what does that look like?
Absolutely slows down. I mean, through my career, when I started out, I was with the director, Billy McCoy, knew everything that was going on in the game. We always had to make less cameras look like more. And then in the summertime, we also had athletes that would come and be interns with us. So one summer, my summer interns were Bruce Clark, who's all pro, Mike Gooman, played for the Rams, and another guy named Matt Millen. And Matt always told me that you had to know what they were going to do. So we were film watchers. You watch film. We could tell what they're going to do. Matt always spoke. When he was with me, I got him back in the Big Ten for 3 or 4 years I was with him. Matt always spoke first at our camera meetings. So there's a guy with 4 Super Bowl rings, walks into these camera guys and says, hey guys, okay, here's what we're going to do. And I mean, it's like a locker room talk, but he's telling them what we're going to see. We're going to see that what a nickel situation looks like, a dime situation looks like, what, in basketball, we watch film. And I try to tell people that in football, I watch as much film about the event that's coming up. This probably is the coaches that watch it.
Wow.
Because that way we know what's going on. Now, I don't have enough time to sit there all day like they do, which sometimes I think is overplayed. But you need to, I walk into a truck. I like to take a walk before the game. And that's why I'm hard on my producers, like, hey, get this pre-production stuff done. I'm going for a walk. Of course, I'm older. I go to the bathroom too, but that's I have two pet peeves about all these billion-dollar stadiums we have. The people that pay the bills are the TV people. So did you think they'd put bathrooms near their TV truck? No, they don't do that at all. They don't do that at all. So anyway, but someday we'll get that changed. And the other thing is they always park the trucks near the dumpsters. So it smells. That's how you find a TV truck, the sniff. But anyways, I like to take that walk, see what's going on in the building, stand in the big wide shot, see what's going on. I talk to people in the first row of basketball games all the time. I see what they're doing. I see what, sit and talk. John Morant may come over and sit beside me, or Jaren Jackson. Not that I know. I mean, they're kids to me. There is a 22-year-old kid, but I listen. My grandmother, my old, great grandmother always told me, sit in a corner of the room, listen to everything people are saying, take it in, use it for your own purposes. And you hear them, you say, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that, or I know what, celebration they might do, or I might know, what kind of play they're looking for at this particular time. And if you sit there as a bystander and don't interrupt in them, then you're good. I talk too much, so sometimes I interrupt, but then I have a calm. Then if I know all my equipment's working, I have a good crew, which I've almost always had, And another terribly important thing about this whole business, my wife, Cheryl, she lets me do this. Other people's wives, this is a bad business. They won't let me do it. My 3 children let me do this.
Aww.
Because I did the traveling. They stayed at home. Home was a base. We were based in Pittsburgh. A lot of people in this business, as they say, come from Pittsburgh, State College, Wilkes-Barre, New York City. Draw a line across there. You'll find people, a lot of the big people in this business are right through that line. And then you throw in LA. Okay. That's where they come from. Because in Pittsburgh, I always found hard workers. They come from families that worked in steel mills, coal mines, PPG glass. They're all in my backyard. I live in the same house that I not grew up in, but the same house we bought 30 some years ago. And literally I have a steel mill right over the thing that's still one of the number 1 specialty steel mills in the world. And that's kind of working class people. They work hard, and they work hard, and they care about what they do, and they care about other people. So when you walk in that truck and you have all these people the synergy is there. They're all there. They're all good. I'm not worried about, this guy's bad on tape, or this guy's not a good camera guy and I had to hide him, or I have to do this or do that. They're good people. You're going to go, hey, I've done this, done it. What's the number now? 4,279 times as of the first of the year. I keep track.
Wow.
It's all broke down, so tonight will be my 1,500th and 20th NBA game. Yeah.
So what made you want to keep track?
I was bored on the road, and I had off days, and I'm very meticulous with my records. So I have all my date books. I don't rely on the computer and my phone and that. I have handwritten date books, and I write it in pencil, and they're covered up, but you know what? It makes me remember it. And I know when my dates are, I know what I got to call. I mean, this pandemic thing, I've been Zoom calls, every day. And, it's crazy. And I got to deal with protocols now and things that we used to never have to deal with. But, it's been a hard year, but no, I keep organized like that. That's why I wanted to do it. And I don't know what it'll do. Maybe I'll write a book someday, but I don't know if anybody'd be interested. So,
well, I think they will be interested. What's the hardest you've ever worked to get a job?
To get a job, hardest.
The most persistence, yeah.
Probably just my first job. I mean, I come out of college, and my brother Johnny, the photographer, was at the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale, And I had, believe it or not, long hair, blonde hair. And my fraternity brother was the captain of the lifeguards at Fort Lauderdale Beach and offered me a job there for like 30 grand a year. And my dad would have killed me. But I was, I had free room and board. So I was with my brother hanging out, and I'm looking for radio jobs all over the country. So we're driving to spring break one day. I get an interview at WVOT. I'll remember to this day, Wilson, Voice of Tobacco, Wilson, North Carolina, which is right by Greenville, which is the other Greenville of North Carolina, where East Carolina is. I go for the interview. Guy buys me a hamburger, offers me like $5,200 a year. And I said, nah, I don't think that's going to work. So we went on to spring break and, did our thing. Come back home, and at the end of summer, Total Communication Systems, that was run by Nelson Goldberg, was looking for somebody. And his brother owned a haberdashery, men's store, and which my dad bought some suits there, got some suits from, whatever, and went over for an interview. They had an opening for PR assistant or something like that. I said, okay, I'll go for an interview. And they own 2 radio stations, WKPA and WYDD in Pittsburgh, a 50,000 watt FM and a like 5,000 watt. So he hired me. He offered me $150 a week, $6,200 for the year. 60, I'm like, I'll take it. I could still live at home. And he said, you could do afternoon sports on WKPA if you want to, 5-minute hit every day. So I'd go from the office, go over there. So first day on the job, I went, and we have the rights to the Atlantic 10 back then. That was with Dr. J was playing, all this kind of stuff. Or it's Atlantic 8 back then. And we decided we're going to drop the rights. So my first job is talking to newspaper guys who are ready to just, ream us. I mean, they're looking for any story they can come up with. And I don't know how to, I had one PR class in college. I was a journalism news broadcasting major. They're asking me questions. Next day I walk in, Nelson's like, back to my office. What in the heck were you thinking? And I'm like, I don't know I don't know how to answer. I just answer. We dropped the rights. We don't have the money, whatever, There's not enough TV stations to cover it. But I don't know. He taught me some things that I, use to this day. I mean, my first day in the work, he says, get in the car. We're going to Penn State. We're going to meet with Coach Paterno. Oh, really? Okay. So I hop in the car, put a sport coat on, because Joe, learned a lot of things from Joe. And I love my kid got to play for him during his last, few years. You wore a sport coat, being on time means 15 minutes early. And he would be there a half hour. So he'd come at 15 minutes before, and he'd apologize for being late. You're like, Joe, you're not late, But I get in the car, have nothing in my hands. My boss goes, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm going to ride in the car to State College with you. No, you're not. He says, I'm going to teach you one thing right now. Where's your pencil? Where's your paper? Your pen, pencil. 90% of what you are told, you will forget if you don't write it down. I use it to this day. I still have a pencil, a Sharpie, a piece of paper, always in my pants pocket to write it down, somebody's phone number, some little note, oh, that guy does. Okay, I write it. You write it down, because then you take it out at the end of the day and you're like, oh, here's this. Oh, here's this. Or here's another phone number I want to add to my phone book or whatever. That's why I try to keep my memory of people I've known for the years, all the way through these years, so that someday maybe I'll go back and have lunch with them or something. I don't know, but it's just, you don't want to forget. That's what he taught me. And then I met a guy later on that I've worked with, gave me so many opportunities, Rick Ray and Raycom, one of the great guys in the business. I mean, he said, I can say to you that I've worked at every network in this country, every one, some of their biggest shows, and never been staff at any of them, because guys like Rick Ray would put you on shows and projects and stuff. Like you said in your notes to me about working with Craig Sager. Yeah. Well, I did Jimmy V's last year too. I was his producer. Jimmy V every year. I mean, just each day getting him up and getting him. Come on, Jimmy, you can do this, man. He looks yellow. He can only eat like mashed potatoes. He says to me at the last game, which in the movie was Brett Musburger did that game, and Jimmy, we go have our production meeting at NC State. All the big shots are in from ABC. All they all fly into like Jimmy maybe last game, which it was. And he looks up to me in the production meeting. He goes, Jesus Christ, Tommy, if this goes any longer, I'm going to be dead. And I was like, oh man, I just like fell into tears. And his wife grabbed me, and he doesn't mean that. He loves you, man. So I get a note. Runner comes down and says, hey, Jimmy wants to see you up on the court. I said, okay. So I walk up in Reynolds Coliseum, the old Reynolds at NC State. He goes, Tommy, I want to show you something. He goes over and grabs the microphone. He goes, da, 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 go Wolfpack. You know, he's in the place and he says, I've loved this all my life. This is what I coach for. This, you know, and it was his way of saying, I'm sorry for being a kind of a dum-dum before this, you know. And it was amazing. You know, the place just a lot. Coach K, they're playing Duke that day. National TV, ABC, it's like, you know, 12 versus 2 or something. Coach wouldn't bring his team into the building until that was done, because he didn't want his players seeing how Jimmy had that place was just riled up. And it's just like Cameron. You're right down on the, you know, you're right on the court. Now they play out a PNC thing, but working with him was amazing. And Craig's the same way. Craig Silver was just, or Craig Silver worked with him too. He was, you know, he's CBS's lead guy in the SEC right now, but I can tell you a lot of stories about him too. But Craig Sager, to me, he just taught me how to love the business, know it, be really good at it, but let's have fun doing it too. We'd get out in the NBA playoffs and he'd say, Tommy, you know the old saying in the NBA. I said, what's that? He goes, all connections go through Vegas. So we would do a show, we'd be gone. But people didn't realize Craig wasn't just a sideline reporter. Craig was my track and field play-by-play guy. He was really, really good. He did his homework like people you wouldn't know. I mean, we went all over Europe. I tell the kids to this day, and they still don't believe me. We used to do the Bruce Jenner Classic each year, track and field, Santa Clara, California. And we had these little babies in the stroller. And I'd sometimes, Chris, you know, his wife would say, hey, can you watch the kids for a few minutes? What was it's Kardashian girls. I'm like watching them in their stroller, you know, and those two in their sweatsuits, and we're getting ready to do this track meet, you know. And Craig was like, you know, right in the middle of the whole thing. And he was really, really good at what he did. And his sideline thing, I mean, I have a big thing I once watched a thing that Dick Ebersol put together about sideline reporters, how they should ask questions and whatnot. And you seem to be pretty good at it. The one thing I hate the most is when somebody says to you, what's going through your mind? And you know darn well one of these days, one of these knuckleheads is going to go, actually, I was looking at the person in the first row and I was thinking they were, you know, da-da-da-da. You know, they're going to say somebody's going to finally say what they're actually thinking.
Yeah.
But anyways, I hate the question. And Craig never asked that question. And the next one I saw after that, I had Lisa Byington as our sideline reporter for about 3 or 4 years. And you know her, she's good.
An amazing climb
flat
for
out
her.
good.
She deserves all this.
Another one. She never, ever asked that kind of question. I said, there's different ways to phrase that question. Get something out of them. And Dick always told us too, the fewer the words, the better the response. Because if you put a microphone, if I put a microphone in front of Bryan right now and maybe say 3 words, you're going to talk. And they'll talk too. That's the nature, the beauty of the beast. We're not here to hear you. You're not the person we're interviewing. We want to hear the person that's being interviewed. So I've with the many sideline reporters, I mean, I've had Lisa, I've had Carissa Thompson. I told you, I started back with Jim Lampley and Don Tollefson. I lost the coin flip the first game. I had to work with Don the first game, Tollefson, who just retired in Philadelphia. But I had Jimmy then a couple games after that and just did some other things with him. And he proved, you know, he was a great anchor too. And good guy to work with, really good guy to work with. And, you know, we're all getting toward the ends of our careers. So kind of bring back some memories. But anyways.
I think there's so much in front of you, as there has been in terms of you accomplishing so much already. Tom Huet is with us. I'm Bryan Fenley. Yes, as far as like pet peeves for me, it's 99.9% of the time, Tom, it's an open-ended question. You know, there's no yes or no. There's no how do you feel or what's in your mind, more so what's in your mind. Or if you start a question with talk about, that drives me insane. Tom, talk about the game, talk about the challenges. You know what I mean? Those are.
I think the second question should always come from the first answer.
I agree.
Not something preconceived. But there's one question that always has to be asked. If you're following a storyline through a game, you have to then put the button on it at the end, whether it's good or bad. And I always tell the camera guys, winners and losers, heroes and losers. So if someone scores a touchdown, someone let them score a touchdown. If someone, made the winning bucket, someone's upset about letting them score the winning bucket. That way we see both. And that's why the story, if you're following a kid through the whole game and it's about his parents or this, that, well, you got to see all that at the end. You can't just forget and go off the air. We have so many, it's not so much these days, but in the old days, I'll tell you what, and these young kids, they don't know it all. When you were told to get off the air, you got off the air. Or if you had to run a promo, you ran it then and at that time, or your butt was gone the next day. It's like, I want a promo now. You don't see the big picture. You put it in. Off the air in 3, 2. I had one call in when I first started with ABC. One day, he won't be announced. He got fired on the spot, one of the ADs. So Chuck Howard says to me, count backwards from 10. I said, 10, 9, you're good, you're hired. See that red phone right there? Your job today is to count in the breaks, but if that red phone rings, you pick it up. I said, who's on it? He goes, you know damn well who's on the end of that phone. Roone Arledge. Okay. So later on, several years down the road, Roone goes over to news. Okay. And Roone's a legend. I ask young kids now, do you know who Roone Arledge is? They're like, no. I said, he's not even taught in broadcasting classes. This guy founded this business and he did it both for sports and news. So I'm doing the UMass game with Temple, Calipari, John Chaney.
Wow.
John Williams, I believe, was the guard. I get a phone call. He says, I pick it up. It's a red phone. I'm producing. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. World News Tonight hits at 6:00. We're at like 5:55 and some change. And this game's going down to the end. It could go to overtime. Roone says to me very quickly, your ass is gone if I don't hit World News Tonight at 6:00. And I know what you're doing right now. You're dragging out these timeouts. And he said, you better get it done I said, I can't tell you. Boom, hung up. I'll tell you what, that kid hit that ball at the top of the key, swish, UMass wins. I'm like 9, 8, 7.
Oh my God.
There. Everybody looking at me in the truck. Why did we get off so fast? I'm like, trust me, we got off.
Wow.
But the young guys, gals, all of them, I think some of them don't understand a lot of that stuff. When you're sitting, I've never done the Super Bowl. I've done pregame shows for the Super Bowl. Even then, spots running, it could be 30 grand, 40 grand, 50 grand, 60 grand. It's got to run. You can't all of a sudden say, I'm not going to do that. Or if you see at the last spot, say a Toyota car dealership, and all of a sudden you look at the billboards and the first billboards for Ford, you go, we're blowing them billboards off right now. You can't, they don't understand that anymore. And I always have those saying, and a lot of my colleagues are saying, you never put billboards over an American flag. We never do that. Veterans Day is tomorrow. We were talking last night about it. We're going to do anything today in our show because we're not on the air tomorrow. I says, yeah, we are. We're going to do Veterans Day today. We're going to do that. They deserve that. Probably one of the things that I never had to do. And I was lucky because I was the last draft class for Vietnam. So we sat in a dorm room and the balls are coming out. You guys are too young for that. You don't know about that. Balls are coming out. One of my roommates, 5. At that time, it's almost a death wish. You're going to Vietnam right away. You finish the current semester you're in college, off you go. Mine come up like 193. And I'm like, so I didn't have to report. I didn't have to go to basic training. But to this day, I'm like, and my dad, and he's going to be 91. And I got a mother-in-law that's, that's going to be 100 this year. Wow. And we take care of them. My wife, that's why I said, my wife is a saint. Cheryl is a saint. She looks in on her every day and has dinner with her and then goes to make sure my dad's okay. They live about a half mile from our house. Another thing about family, we live close. We get in an area. But my dad's always said to me, when it was mandatory 2-year service for everybody, he says, we might not have the problems we have right now, in this country, because service was good for people. And I said, Dad, I wish I would have went. Now, I don't particularly want to get shot at. My neighbor right across the street was killed in Vietnam. So it was, it was a little closer to home. I can always remember my mother saying, I have my paper route, and I'm delivering my papers. She said, Mrs. Adams might not be so happy today when you give her a paper. So what do you mean? She says, well, her son was just killed. Oh, Mom. Okay. So I kind of snuck up and put the paper on the porch and, kept going. But yeah, it's a lot of, that goes back to the younger people in the business now. There's a lot of experiences that we've had that maybe they could benefit from, and that they haven't had to experience that kind of hardship. And I look at my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law knows every event I'm on, and she watches it. And I'll come in and say, why did that guy say that? Or you had a bad camera guy in one place. I saw it was flipping all over the place. She's really good at that. She'll call, what channel is he on tonight? Or what game is this? And my dad's he's the same kind of dad. My dad had to work all 14, 15 hours a day. I grew up on a farm. I grew up in a trailer. Okay. And we built a cinder block building beside it. We were poor as church mice. And Dad had to work all the time. So when I got into sports, my brothers got into sports, Dad wasn't there. He didn't have time to go there. He came to one of my track meets all through high school. And he was standing at the fence. I win the race. And I look up at the end, and I was running out, and he goes, nice race. Good race. And you know what? And I look back, he was gone. He had to go back to work. He just happened to be passing the track where I was running. And likewise, he went up to Penn State, and I remember this day, my freshman year in a hurdle relay, running, blah, blah, blah. I got Fred Singleton's hand. I remember this day, Fred Singleton, who was Ken Singleton's brother, hands off to me, and he goes, don't F this up. Because he gave me like a 2 hurdle lead. And it's like Maryland, Rutgers, Temple, and I'm short, and I'm like, the hurdles are tired. I just barely edged it out at the end. And my dad looked at me, he'd come up for the weekend. He's like, that's pretty good. That's it. That's all I said about it. He didn't know what I did, and, it's like, okay, and I tried to be the same way, I try to be more involved with my kids, many red eyes home to see, my 2 daughters pitching softball when they like to do it, or when they're cheerleaders and when they're majorettes. My son was playing 4 sports at the time. So I was always trying to get back home to see him do this or see him do that, or, whatever. And, I like I told you, without my wife, without their support, and that's why I still work. I still work for them. I got 4 grandchildren now, and I just picked up my littlest one. She just came home from Turkey, from Istanbul. They were over there for 90 days working out of the office. My son's he was able to work out of the office. He was lucky. He's a senior legal counsel for the Weather Channel. So he's able to, kind of work anywhere. And they got home, and the little one was waving her arms when she came out of customs at Atlanta the other night. And I'm like, oh, I still remembered me, and then I have lunch. I try to have lunch every day with my next granddaughter. She's 16 months old. So she'll get on there and talk. And, right before I go to work, usually she'll be on the line, and I'll talk to her for a little bit. And the other 2 are second grade and 5 years old. So we're debating shots and, COVID and keeping them healthy. My daughter's a 3rd grade teacher, and she's been there 15 years doing that. And my daughter and son-in-law both work at Carnegie Mellon. So that's really a good place for them. And, but like I said, when you sit here in these lonely nights on the road and you think about all this kind of stuff, I'm lucky. I got to do what I want to do because other people supported me, and they let me do what I wanted to do. And like I said, all the way back to like Ray Scott and stuff, where they took you under your arm and just said, hey, don't let the networks intimidate you. You're just as good as anybody they have there. They might have known somebody, or they got there a different way. You got there because you didn't know anybody, and you kept working and, to get up. And I get lucky. Sometimes, a good event falls in your lap. Monday night was amazing, but you know what? Sunday was just as good. I did the last game, Cincinnati and Atlanta United, and I probably saw the best soccer goal I've ever seen in my life by Jose Martinez. And over the head side, when the ball was 35 feet in the air, and I was like, I just screamed. I was like, holy. And my traveling compadre behind me, Brian Wright, who is, man, he's one of my real superstars that I try to keep close to me all the time, because he's good and he understands how we move media now. He's good at it. That was the other thing too. Anybody coming up, man, learn how to do everything. But I run Valley Bar. I go out and just type it up. I go back. We had it since day one. And I saw you put on your notes about that changeover.
Yeah.
That was pretty amazing, man.
How quickly did that happen, and how were you able to pull that off as seamlessly as you guys did?
We were, I don't know, I think maybe they look at us as saying, you know, this group's pretty good in Memphis because we're kind of in the hinterlands and nobody bothers us. But and it's also, if it screws up, you know, maybe nobody will see it.
Oh, stop it.
Because there's only a couple of events that night on March 31st. So you know, our group, which has been together a while, Mike Conley used to be a producer with me. He's our, you know, executive senior vice president, whatever. And he is Ron Grelnick and Nick Davis. And I've got Jeff Genther on my end, who's our big boss, and Jamie and David White, Todd Manhennett. Kendall Boo has just got, or Kendall Burgess now, just got promoted. These people, they have a good feeling for what we do. They don't hover over us. So they'd say, here's what we're going to do. Here's the tools to do it with. Let's do this. We want you guys to do this. We're going to give you like a week. We were starting to look at stuff. I mean, we were getting creative in, Bryan, literally, you know, like opens and rejoins and interstitials and stuff. We're getting them in an hour before game time. And Brian Wright's sitting there downloading them, pushing them onto an Elvis, putting them into our spot box, and we're putting them on the air with almost not seeing them. So, but he's doing a new graphics look. I'm spending most of my time with the Bally Bar because it has to work. I mean, the Bally Bar is something you're going to see, you know, hey, I'm an original David Hill guy. David Hill sat down and he gave us specific instructions of how we on Fox we're going to put shows on the air. And that's to this day, you know, cut. The dissolved means a change in time. We're going to have a Fox box up in the corner. Hey, you don't know how many of us fought that. Many people are like, that's never going to work. That's never going to work. You know, and then you had the George Finkel game where the Fox box, the clock on NBC was over top of the bucket going in. The camera guy, that's proof. It's never going to happen. NBC waited the longest, I think, for it to happen. But David Hill, you know, instilled in all of us as we were doing this that there's ways to do things right. You know, he never wants to see an announcer on without, you know, with a headset on. Why would I pay him all that money and wear a nice suit to have a headset on? You know, their hair's all this, you know, they're supposed to have mics. Take the time to do it right. Never come back from a show with a wide shot. Never. You got living, breathing people out there. Let's see them. You know, let's see them out in the stands. Let's see them. So when the Bally thing came, hey, to us, my group, Brian Wright, Scott Zachary, my producer, who's wonderful, Michael Thompson and Brad Ashby, our two TDs, our technical directors. And we have a little guy, Jason Boyer, like our little pocket rocket. He's a little guy. We can put him in a suitcase and carry him with us. He's a wizard, wizard on the Elvis, though, wizard. He's amazing with it. And Brian Wright, we sit there and we say, okay, here's the attack. Here's the plan. Here's how we're going to do it. And you got to keep in mind, and I don't mean for sympathy, but we got hit pretty hard here. We lost our main guy. The guy that Jason took the spot of a guy named Michael Edwards, Speedy, we call him. Everybody, all of our shows, end of our shows, the coaches even wore little Speedy decals. Yeah. He's a COVID victim. He worked our game here on December the 26th. Gets up the morning of 28th to meet Brian Wright to come up here because one lives in Birmingham, one lives in Tuscaloosa, which is about a 3-hour drive up here. He says, hey, my wife's positive. He says, get out of the car. He says, what do you mean? No, let's go up and do the game. I don't feel bad. No, get out of the car. You got to call the boss because, you know, you got to get tested. Get tested. He's positive. Brian, we put him in a hotel room and he remoted and did the whole show remotely, which is right across the street. So I kept calling him and said, hey, did you get a massage yet? Hey, you know, room service, get some really good room service. We're paying for it. Enjoy yourself over there. But he was running all the machines without seeing the monitors. Wow. So I'm talking to him through a headset, a phone jack that we had, so that he could say, okay, what's on the preview monitor? Tell him, okay, John Morant's at the foul line. How many? Okay, that graphic's good. Put it in, you know, okay, you're out now, you know, blah, blah, blah. The whole time we're talking. Anyways, we had lost Speedy and we then lost our Brett Smith, who's my tech manager for 30 some years in college football, but he runs our arena. I got him a job here with FedEx Forum. He died too. And it was pretty hard for our guys. And we lost our stats guy now too. In August, he died. So we're going through all the COVID stuff. You know, you couldn't walk here. You couldn't go there. You got to wear a mask here. You got to go here. You got to get tested here. Our team, the Memphis Grizzlies, I can't say anything better about the Memphis Grizzlies and Atlanta United and the Atlanta properties that Arthur Blanks runs, and Robert Parra that runs our place, and Jason Wexler. I can't say anything better. I mean, Arthur Blank sends me a note Does your family need tested? Do you need vaccines? Come to my private place and I will make sure you get them in Atlanta. Awesome. Thank you. Here, Jason Wexler, note, we're vaccinating the players. You're part of our team. You're getting vaccinated if you'd like. And we will get on. And you know what? It wasn't one vaccine. You could pick from 3, anyone you want. And we'll make sure you get the follow-up too. We're scheduling your appointment day. I had to fly in and out of here. My second vaccine, I got one of the first ones back in February. I got it back at home. So I'm supposed to get my second one, whatever date it was, February 20 something. I get a call from the place that gave me the vaccine. Hey, we got a problem. I said, what's that? I said, I got a bigger one than yours, but go ahead. You tell me yours first. He says, we have no vaccine for your second shot. It's stuck on a runway in Memphis, Tennessee, in a FedEx plane. I said, yeah, because that's my problem. We got 14 inches of snow and they don't get snow here. I can't move to come home to get the vaccine. And she says, well, the vaccine's sitting on the runway. And I said, okay. So anyways, they made sure that March 8th, they pulled me a vial, put my name on it, made sure I got my second shot. So that by March 8th, and then 2 weeks later, I was fully vaccinated and, copacetic with the league and whatnot. Anyways, the Bally thing, they gave us the materials. They let us run with it. We changed it all over overnight. I mean, we went from Fox, which we've been using that look for 6-7 years, and music changed, creative changed, everything changed on the air. And literally we got after the show, we were exhausted. We looked at each other and go, you know what? I think we did pretty good. It's a pretty good start. It's going to get better. We had, you got all the bosses are watching and looking. And so you feel like any move you make, it's like, they looking, who's behind me, who's going to, want to know about this and who's going to want to know about that. But the look is good. It's going to, I think that personally, I know people are going, the economy's going through some situations and the media is going through situations. There's cutbacks, there's whatever. I still think that this Bally's concept and everything is going to be a real home run. I think the betting is going to come in. I think it'll get to the point where, Bryan, you're going to sit there watching the game and you're going to have maybe just $20 in your account. But they're going to say, okay, is Jaren Jackson Jr. going to make this free throw? Hit your button. You're going to say yes for $1 and you win $2. If he does it, if he doesn't, then you lose $1. But people don't realize, they say, they poo-poo that as like, oh, that's not much money and stuff. When you take the original concept, and I go back to the beginning, cable TV and subscribers, one subscriber's paying you $1. But you know what? I have 100,000 of those guys paying $1 every month for 12 months. Guess what? It becomes a lot of money, a lot of money, and becomes very important. So you're going to see things like the Bally Bar. And I'm not just saying it's us, it's going to be the rest of them. They're all going to follow along. It's just a new way of distributing your product to people. It's going to be streamed. It's going to be, it's going to go over the air. It's still going to go over the air. It's still going to, regional sports, people still want them. They're not going to say, I don't want to see the Atlanta Hawks play tonight. Yes, you are. I don't want to see Atlanta Braves. I mean, Atlanta Braves, they were the first superstation, WTBS. Yep. I mean, they're all over the country. They have fans everywhere. And obviously, New York followed right behind them with PIX and WOR with, the Mets and the thing. And Chicago went with WGN. That was that new technology then. Now they could send a signal. We send signals now, Bryan, literally through a freaking Cat 5 or Cat 6 cable. Wow. And that's 4 signals, 2 out, 2 back through decoders with unlimited audio channels. And the last piece of this puzzle, it's a word called latency. The minute that stuff becomes zero delay, it happens then, because then you got everything. Because you could see on your phone. A lot of times I'll be watching, say, a Steeler game while I'm, like the other night, I'm doing our game. We're going to overtime. Cat's hitting buckets over his head. And I'm looking like, dang, Justin Fields is driving him down the field again. Boswell missed an extra point. But the thing is, I can see it on video, but my phone has already gone down, field goal good. And I'm looking, I go, they're just lining up right now. So it's like 6, 7, till that gets resolved so that we're all on the same, equal timing. That's when it'll get better. That's when you'll start seeing the real-time betting. And, that's why I watch, we have a company now, Sports Radar. They're going to play a big role in this. It used to be like the old, Elias Sports and all that. It did, they do the stats. you have to have statistics in order to create odds. And that's basically what they're, made on. And we have, man, for us to have a gambling sponsor, we have FanDuel in our show. If I'd have told you that probably just even 3 years ago, you would have told me I'm nuts. Like, that ain't ever going to happen on a college football game. I mean, maybe pros and NBA. I'd say NFL before NBA, obviously, but all that hidden dark money that's been out there for years and years, all those office pools, all the other stuff, that stuff's all going to come into actually, how would you say, a legal situation now, and people will make money on it. I mean, I grew up with little old ladies at the fruit market at home. We had a big, how would you say, family presence in our area. And they, took the numbers every day. Here's 10, here's 3, here's 9, and they just take your money, take it in, you can place a bet on anything, but that's the Bally thing happened, I think was pretty incredible. I mean, and it just gets better every day. We just got all new creative again, for the season to start. And the data that comes into the Bally Bar, we just introduced our college basketball updated scores last night, and they look really good. And, it's going to just keep growing and growing, the information that we can put in there in the bottom of the screen.
I want to pay off this tease. I could talk to you forever. I also want to be very mindful of the lunch that you're going to have with your granddaughter and your work as well. So
she's gone for the day.
So let me know when we got.
She's taking her nap.
Okay, she's got to take her nap.
Oh, I got to get in. Actually, one of our bosses is coming in tonight because we have what's called a Hornets playing Grizzlies. So they're both our properties in our region. We have the largest region, Fox Sports South or Bally. Yeah, Fox Sports South. Bally Sports Southeast is the largest of the regionals. And we have, I think it's like 9 pro teams. So like when we play each other, that's like when everybody shows up type thing. So we got to go in and get some work done and do that kind of thing. But we have off, work hard today, off tomorrow, and then we're doubling up. We're doing, who we play? We play Phoenix on Sunday. And then on Friday, and we go right after the game to New Orleans, play the Pelicans. So no good time in New Orleans though. Won't even be there 24 hours.
You're going to be on the road a lot here coming up, but I wanted to go back to the Olympics because we didn't really get to touch on your experiences in the Olympics. We're joined by Tom Huet. I'm Bryan Fenley. I would think that when you go back to your early life, Tom, and you think about your humble beginnings and what would unfold in your future, that you would be astounded, you'd be surprised. But in a way, I'm not, considering your work ethic, considering your persistence and the role that your father played in your life and how he taught you what it takes to want something and to earn it. And so I don't want to think that anything is unbelievable when you consider all that you've done to this day in your career. But when you look at the Olympics, what to you was unbelievable in the fact of major moments that you were able to be a part of and get on television from your experiences in the global games?
Well, my first Olympics was in '88 in Seoul. And at the time, TCS just, we went bankrupt. It wasn't kind of a bankruptcy. It was like a merger into NEP. We had the rights to build the broadcast center there. And we had just come off I was the coordinating producer for the Pan American Games for CBS in '87 in Indianapolis. And so I played kind of a planning and engineering role on the Seoul Olympics. And then NBC called me and said, hey, do you want to, I want you to produce rowing, canoeing, and kayaking. I said, okay, that sounds pretty cool. It was like 7 miles from the DMZ. So that was kind of cool. And so I'd been going over to Korea to test microphones, test low wake boats, do a lot of engineering type things, PLs, stuff like that. And then I was to show up as a producer. But then our people, that was tough. That was NBC's first Olympics, and there was a lot of shit that didn't work. So basically, I would work during the day as a producer because we would go in early. Rowing's always early in the morning because you have to have, calm water and stuff. And I get a call from George Wenzel or Debbie Honkus, and George I had hired originally and brought him in, and he was then running the shop because I couldn't keep running trucks and stuff and building them. And they're, hey, we need you to work tonight. We're going to test out all the PLs at this venue. Take a truck, you got a driver, go here, go there, go that. So we were making all this stuff work at night, and that Olympics to me still stands out. My most memorable thing of that is Norm Bellingham and Greg Barton. won double golds. We had nothing. Our crew, we didn't win anything. And, you're hoping for the U.S. to, I'm working for NBC. You're hoping the U.S. to win. We can't canoe and kayak, and rowing was just so good. The eights were good, and that. Well, these two guys double up same day within 45 minutes of each other, double golds. Single for Barton, and Barton had a wonderful, great story, but he had basically deformed feet. So it was a wonderful story and all that stuff. And earlier, a couple days before that, I got a call from NBC PR. He said, "Hey, we have a request. A person would like to sit in the truck with you and watch rowing in the morning, because can't really see it really good, as a spectator." I said, "Okay, who is it?" He said, "Well, his name's Prince Albert, and he might have a couple bodyguards and stuff with him." And I said, "Okay, that'd be cool," because you remember his mother's side of the family were Olympic gold medalists in rowing, so he had a love for the sport. So he comes in right away. I tell the guys in the crew, no stupid remarks, no nothing. Protocols, guys, don't be goofy.
Yeah.
Mike Sheehan, my thing right away goes, does the Prince Albert in a can joke. And I looked back and I go, oh my God. Prince Albert looks at me and he goes, and he's shaking his head too, because he's a really good guy. He's like, "I can't believe it." And I'm like, "Mike." And Mike's like, coordinating director for the Olympics now. And I'm like, "I can't, Mike." Anyways, he watches the show and I'm thinking, "Oh God, now I'm gonna have to apologize. I'm going to get yelled at for, something." He goes to me, he says, "Hey, would you be interested in being my guest at boxing tonight?" It was a big, we had, I think the Holyfields are still boxing then or something, or Spinks. I said, "Oh, absolutely." He says, "I hope you don't mind that my bodyguards are around." I said, "No, heck no." So I took 2 or 3 of the people with us and we went and watched boxing with him that night and kind of became friends. So then I move on to Barcelona, do the same events. And he asked one night, he's like, "Hey, you guys going out tonight?" So we all go out together, dancing, disco, the whole, it was pretty cool. And, like I said, I'm not bald and ugly looking back then.
Stop it.
Not hanging with everybody. Anyways, the thing I can remember that Olympics is I got a phone call after the first marathon, and it was the women were first, and then the men were the last day of the thing. Get a call, "Hey, Tom, we have a problem." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Can you direct the first 15 miles of the marathon? Because it goes over a big hill and all the microwave, and you've got the Goodyear blimp on your side. You got all that stuff. You have to go up to a little seaside town, which was down from where I was doing. I had done rowing up at Bagnoles." And I said, "Sure." So the first 15 miles of the marathon was all mine. And then I passed it off to Bob Levy, who took it from the mountains over and brought them in. But that was kind of my big memory. Bagnoles, our second venue was Seixas, which is one of the nicest beaches in the world. So our guys, we would work and then go to the beach right across the street afterwards. And then that was 92, 96. And we had Goodwill Games in between. I worked both of those. Russia was an amazing place to be. I mean, how we were ever scared of them as a world power, I don't know, because half their stuff didn't work. But it was great. We were in St. Petersburg. I got to see everything basically for free. Stuff, our treasures of the world lived there in the Hermitage. So we go to Atlanta, and NBC hasn't made a commitment to me yet. And Terry Ewert becomes coordinating producer for Manolo Romero and the host broadcaster system. Calls me up and says, "Hey, can you do rowing for the world feed? It's going to be up on Lake Lanier." And I said, "Yeah, sure." So I go up to Lake Lanier and do a survey, whatnot. We had dinner. We're driving home. Next morning, I get a call from him and I say, "I need to talk to you about something." I said, "What, am I fired already?" And I've been doing a lot of swimming and diving and a lot of other, track and field is one of my real loves. And he said, "No." He said, "Manolo liked you enough and what we were talking about at the meetings." And so he says, "He wants you to be the producer of the world feed for track and field." And if you know anything about the Olympics, athletics that's the sport. Like they say, that saying says, the Olympics does not begin until athletics starts. And we want you to run the whole thing. There's 5 control rooms. You'll do all ceremonies. You have 148 cameras to distribute. And this is 3 years before, so the stadium is just being built. So you're going to place them, put them in positions, do all that. I want you to work on your track meets and developing the side camera that does, on the 100-yard and the hurdles and stuff. I was one of the ones that developed that, work with the developers on that. And we also had it in the back straight too for the hurdles and 400 meters and stuff, which now is just common. They have it. I said, "Wow." And he says, "You're going to try out this new thing. We're going to give you 3 super slow-mos." So I don't even know what they are really. So I want you to put them out, use them on your events. You got 3 of them. So, okay. So my director's Ralph Millay. We do the opening ceremonies. The people are doing it. My kids got to come down. Julie got to sit with me with the torch. She got a torch from the actual run, came right by our hotel and gave her a torch. And we were up watching. We saw Muhammad Ali light the thing with that's my middle daughter. And my youngest daughter was little and trying to pull her up there too. And Matt was there and my wife. And we came to the 200 meters, which Michael Johnson. So I said, okay, we're going to I have a super slow on the bend. I said, I don't want you to do anything but follow his feet. Young lady was running the thing. She says, why? I says, I just want you tight on his feet all the way around. Those gold plated shoes he had. You people remember the gold dust.
Oh, yeah.
And then we had 2 other super slow-mos doing the thing. And then I told I had a camera up top. It's sort of the precursor to, Spider Cam now. And I said, I want you to be wide the whole time. And we're going to put a star filter in your lens. Man, Michael come off that bend, runs 1976, world record. I mean, at that point, I think it was the best race he ever ran. He blew out his leg after that. I don't think he was ever that good. He won the 400, but we go to the replays. And Mel was like, he'd always told us, you don't have to overdo it. We did like 16 replays. But when we got to the shoes going around, and we got to the big wide, there's all the wide stars going off, all the people taking pictures, because they all had flash bulbs back then. They didn't have the, no iPhones and stuff like that. It was just spectacular. It was spectacular. And then, the night before that, the other thing I remember, I'd become good friends. Carol Lewis is one of my announcers, and I'd become good friends with the whole Lewis family. Carl jumped his last, and he medaled, whatever. Comes in the room, and we were crying. Carl's like, I'm done. He's in the control room with us. I'm like, Carol and Carl, and he got up when he got inducted to the Hall of Fame at Houston. I flew down to do it. I was there doing a football game, actually. Good thing. Carl started his speech by saying, there's only one person that's ever held me up in my career, and that's he's right there. Because I would start the races. I would tell them when they could run. You didn't run until you were told.
That's amazing.
Another side, real good side, Goodwill game story. Remember, the athletes there were paid. So we had Carl and whoever racing. His lane's empty. And I'm like, what? This race isn't starting. It just will not start until Carl was in that lane. They're going on and on. Where's Carl? Carl's in the bathroom. So I held up the race.
Oh, God.
Wasn't feeling good, to say the least. So I held the whole race up for him. And finally he walked in, so I'm ready to go. I'm like, okay, go on, get in your thing. That was it. Just little stories off the thing like that. We Jackie joined Kersey there. The bathrooms were horrible in Russia. I mean, they
Sure, yeah.
So we have a porta-john. We dressed it up like you wouldn't believe. We made it some perfume, we brought the best toilet paper from the United States. We had everything. Just so and Jackie looked at me as I said, yeah, go ahead and use it. She's like, oh, it's so much nicer. But after Atlanta, I skipped one or two. I skipped because I was doing baseball for Fox then. I was making more money. It's always money decision, basically. And then I did Athens, which was amazing. You're in the Greek. I mean, I'd been there a few times before, but just to do it in that setting and scenario. And I did wrestling there, and we had some good success with that. And I did rhythmic gymnastics. And I had, Andrea Joyce and Alfie Schwegel. We were doing it. It was the first Olympics where we did things remotely. So I was in a control room back at the broadcast center. They were at site. Andrea tells the cab guy in Chinese, take me to gymnastics. She took her to gymnastics, not rhythmic. Artistic gymnastics was run. She called me crying. Tom, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it. Where are you? Get down there. Alfie's down there by herself. Get down there. I'm sorry. He took me to artistic gymnastics. I said, they're not even doing anything tonight in artistic. We have to do rhythmic, with the So that was a good story from Beijing. That was Beijing. Beijing was just what a cultural experience. I mean, I'm on the wall of the Great Wall with Rulon Gardner, and I are really very good friends. And I'm up there with him and our heavyweight. They did a little mock wrestling up there on the wall, and we had a camera with us and stuff. And then we all get on these slides. You could get on these toboggans. We all hop on it. We're racing and screaming down the hill. I mean,
This wall's 4,300 miles long. It's up in the mountain. You got to go up in a gondola to get to the top, you know, and then walking it and like, wow, this is amazing. You know, and my interpreter always said to me, we've been in the business of government for over 4,500 years. You guys have been in the business for like 250 years. I think we learned a little bit about government. I'm like, actually, it does kind of make sense to me a little bit, you know? I mean, I remember, and I won't keep you long, but I remember going in like Korea, we got invited to go up to the DMZ.
Wow.
Had to wear, you know, sport coats, all that. Our soldiers are up there and they ain't messing around up there, man. They got the face black on, the bayonets are sharpened, you know, always ready to serve, sir, you know, you know, the whole, I mean, you go over there, Korea, and there's that line, and there's that table. And I take my foot and they go, and I'm looking around, I put my foot over on the other side, you know, I'm in North Korea. And they're like, and they got these big, I mean, the biggest North Koreans, the best well-fed North Koreans are on the other side. Yeah. And they're not playing either. And they're taking it seriously. You're hearing all the propaganda things going through the loudspeakers, all the razor wire, all the bomb, you know, and then you go up and have 25-cent beers with our servicemen, you know, and they don't want us to leave because we're, you know, me, I'm a bullshitter. I'm telling stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, how's this? What's going on at home? You know, how's the Steelers doing? You know,
yeah,
all that kind of stuff. You know, how's Penn State doing? You know, what, you know, and we're telling stories. And I always remember that. Just how incredibly sports is. If we don't, I have fun going to work every day.
Yeah, you do.
I enjoy my job. I could, and I worked in a steel mill. I worked underneath a blast furnace. I laid bricks in a blast furnace. I was told by one of my relatives down there, you're a Hewitt. That means you're going to be a bricklayer here in the steel mill the rest of your life. And I'm like, I don't think so. Dude, I ain't doing this. This is, first of all, it's hot, it's terrible, and it's stinky down here, and it's hard work. You go home every night and just take a shower because you're just filthy. You got stuff up your nose and your mouth, coal dust, you know, stuff from how they treat the steels underneath you. And one day I cleaned up a hydrochloric acid spill, which, you know, could have burnt my hand. I mean, it was dangerous, is, you know, all because that's how they treat the steel, how they pickle it and stuff. But you don't. And I know it sounds kind of crazy, but it's just, you don't leave your roots. You know, your roots are still there. And now that I see, you know, my older relatives and stuff, my dad, my mother-in-law, people like that, and how little they had and how hard they worked for it, and now how they're tough to survive on Social Security and stuff like that, I'm like, that's not real good. You know, I don't want my kids to be like that. You know, I don't want them to have to suffer. And if I can work several more years, I mean, in my estimation, I would like to, and I don't want to pass this on to anybody, but I would like to work 2 more Olympics. I like to work Paris and London, or Paris and LA, if I can get on the shows, that's another thing. Cause, you know, we don't deal with age, but people do subconsciously. We know that. And if I could do that and maybe work on a World Cup, then I'd probably hang it up at that point. I mean, I love soccer. I became a fan of it. My son played it. I didn't have it in high school to play, but my son played it at a very high level. And I got to know a lot of the people around it. And, you know, I do these international things in the summer, and Americans don't understand like what a Messi and a Neymar and a Pogba. And, you know, they don't understand that. Those guys, holy heck. I mean, I'm sitting, we're doing an ICC tournament a couple of years ago, and, you know, I won't prolong you, but Messi is playing around and he flicks a ball up to me. He's like, hey, I just grab it, you know, soccer ball, and I throw it back to him. Hey, what's up? Neymar walks over with him, and Neymar's in the middle of negotiating this $88 million per year deal to go to PSG. I'm like, and both of them, honest to God, Brian, they're not up to my chest. I mean, they're small. Messi's probably like 5'4". Neymar's maybe 5'6". They're small guys. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, holy heck, man. You got, and man, it's just like, they're the best in the world. And Geraldo Piqué comes over, he's about 6'4", and my son was fortunate. I won't even tell you that story, but he got to meet him at the Harvard Business Seminar he went to, and got to go out to dinner with him and his wife is Shakira. So they had a
wow.
Nice, he called me. He goes, Dad, you know where I'm at? Believe me where I'm at. And I said, well, yeah. I said, you're at Harvard right now. He said, yeah, but I'm in a restaurant. Da 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 da. And I'm like, oh, okay. That's one of your legends. You wanted to meet. He goes, oh yeah. We're ended up being, you know, acquaintances. I said, oh, okay, cool. You know, I said, is his wife with him? He goes, oh yeah. Okay. That's all I need to know, Matt. Go enjoy yourself. But anyways, my kids are always mad at me for telling stories, but I grew up with a philosophy that my grandfather taught me a long time ago. He's Belgium, and you never let a little fib get in the way of a good story. If you got your audience, keep pulling them in.
I love this. Tom Huet is with us. I'm Bryan Fenley. I could do this forever and continue these conversations. I know you've got to get to work.
Yeah, I got to go to work here pretty quick.
Yeah. And maybe we could do this again down the road. This would be a lot of fun. If I could leave you with one question, and I love your broadcast team with the Memphis Grizzlies, and Pete Pranica has been like a mentor to me. What has it been like working with him?
So that's where this came from.
There's a connection here. Yes. So the professionalism and just the awesome guy he is. What does that look like? Obviously, we see it on camera and in the broadcast, but behind the scenes as well.
Well, if I had to pick a second family, I have my second family. I have Pete Pranica. I have Brevin Knight. I have Rob Fisher. I got Brian Wright. I got Scott Zachary. I've got our original boss, Randy Stevens, who's an amazing guy. And our team has never treated us like just somebody that's there, earning a buck or something. We're family, we're part of a group. We were unfortunate. One of our announcers, we found, myself and our trainer found them in a room dead one day, Don Poyer. And I think ever since then, it's become like a family bond. I've been here 21 years. I'm the oldest of the group, but there's only 2 Canadians that came with the team that have more seniority here. But I don't get seniority because I'm not a Grizzly employee anymore. But we look out for each other. When we missed Speedy, it was terrible. Like our security guards are part of us, our players. The younger ones are almost, I think, sometimes encouraged. Like, why don't you go talk to those guys? They know something. They've been around the block a few times. Mike Miller used to sit with Sean Toohey when he was one of our announcers and just pick his brain apart.
Wow.
Because, Sean Toohey's one of the most successful businessmen there is. I mean, he's amazing, self-made man, big part of the Yum Corporation now and everything. I mean, he's really not working anymore. And then to have a friend like Brevin. What happened last summer with oral fluid, that was, but I have a person I can talk to, and he has a person he can talk to. And we come from different places. And I don't feel bad talking to him. I mean, he's family to me, We give each other a big hug and say, okay, how do we get better? We're not going to be like, we got to get better every day. And, you live through their ups and downs, and I'm with them pretty much 6 months of the year. And, Pete's been with me, I think 17 years as my seatmate in the plane. We know we know everything about each other. I know about how every rocket could get launched, and how every plane flies, and Pete can turn to me and go, hey, we're going off on runway 27. The wind is not right on that runway. It's like, why'd you tell me that now, Pete? But, Pete's been up, he's been in an F-14, 15, 18, whatever it is, and he didn't throw up. So that was great. And he had video of it. And, we all know each other's what we're doing. Fish is just a phenomenal guy. Another guy that we love and we care for. And he's been with us all the time. Eric Hasseltine, our radio voice, and Hank McDowell used to be with us. He had to quit and because he had some health issues that he wanted to deal with. And Michael Wallace, who came from Miami Heat, is with us. Been here now 6-7 years. We're forming the Grind City Media thing, which is kind of going to be our own network. It is our own network. Got some great people there. When Megan Triplett this summer got the job with NBC to work with Shepard Smith, the Olympics, they were like, oh, I was so excited for her. I'm like, wow, what a guy to start out with. Shep, good. I mean, he's got the greatest voice of all time, I think. But, Rupert Smith, I just think that's pretty cool. I mean, it's like Ray Scott's voice, and it's hard to explain, but, they have my back, I have their back. And we do fun things on the show that, other people probably couldn't pull off. And they have such a chemistry with each other. We've added Chris Vernon into the thing, who's a local, podcaster and stuff for Grind City Media. He's pretty good. He's, he does the Bleacher Report or whatever the other, I don't know what's the name, Bill Simmons' thing or whatever. He's got a show on that too, I think.
Oh yeah, Bill Simmons is
Yeah,
whole
or it
network
gets
there.
rebroadcast on that, his podcast. But and you know, we got our friendly rivalries. I mean, Petey's a Notre Dame guy, you know, Brevin's a Sanford guy. Fish always says I'm a Division I athlete. He got up one time at bat playing baseball for St. Louis and he struck out on 3 pitches. So he's a Division I athlete. So I know what they're going through, he says. You know, okay, Fish, that's funny as heck. But you know, but we'll get on the plane. All of a sudden, you know, we got our own bus now. There's 3 buses. So we get on there and he'll start up that, you know, the Clydesdale song, Here Comes the Bud, Here Comes the Big Number One, you know, bum, bum, bum. And we'll start singing on the bus.
Oh my goodness.
We'll start doing Christmas Carol. I mean, we just do, we're family, man. It's just, I don't know. They're waiting, you know, they're over there right now getting ready. You know, we're going to get ready for game. Pete is the most meticulous preparer. There's not going to be any situation he can't handle. He's got it down. And right now, I tell you what, I put my money on Brevin Knight as probably being one of the best analysts. Let's put it this way. If he has Reggie's or, you know, whatever, you know, Chris Webber's or whatever's background or, you know,
yeah,
I mean, he was a great player, 13 years in the league. I mean, Brevin's amazing, but if he had more of their pedigree, those guys are gone because Brevin is really good. If you go back and look for Monday night, if you look at his analysis of the inbound play that cost him a 5-second call, it's amazing. Minnesota had nobody on the other, they had one guy on the other side going to the ball. And there was nobody even in sight of the camera. And he's good enough to tell us in the truck, give me that angle from that end zone. Give me that angle because I got a story, you know, I can tell a story about it. And he does. And it's like spot on. It's like he sits too. You got a guy that can sit with Jaw Morant. He sit with Jaren Jackson. We always kid him about Jeff Green. Every time Jeff Green has a good game against us, Brevin has talked to him before the game to give him confidence. You know, Tom, you can go. But I said, well, quit talking to him. You know, he's on the other team now. He's not on our team. You know, but he can. Those guys, I think, know enough to say, "Hey, how do you handle this, Brevin? How do you handle this? How do you do that?" You know, and he's Stanford graduate. Brevin knows what he's doing. He's you know, awesome wife, 3 great kids. You know, I've been around them since, you know, Donovan was a baby. Donovan used to beat us in video games at their house in Charlotte all the time. We were going over to his house. You know, it's just, like I said, you know, and we all have our ups and downs. We're all there to pat ourselves in the back. They know when we're, you know, I might have a bad day, you know, or Scott might have a bad day. I mean, Scott will, you know, pat me in the back or something, or give me a fist and say, hey. I said, yeah, it's kind of sucked today, you know, or, hey, like his dad passed away last year. And, you know, I'm sure I've got, you know, stuff to deal with in the future here. And I asked him the other day, I said, you mind if I take December 23rd off? And he's like, no, you got to do what you do for your family. This last year's taught us that, you know, our families come first. I said, well, I can squeeze in like 4.5 days if I take 1 day off. And I haven't taken a day. I've only taken 1 day off in 21 years. And that was for my daughter's wedding.
wow.
So I'm there, you know, we do a game, I'm there. And, you know, our group takes pride in being part of the team. You know, we take our wins and losses on our sleeves. But then again, you know, a couple of minutes after the flight gets off the ground, you know, we're in the back of the plane, you know, doing our thing, having fun. Sometimes we've had coaches come back and like, hey, can I come back and have fun with you guys? This is terrible up there. They're all sad and shit. You know, it's a pro sport. There's 82 games. We're going to lose some games, you know, let's get better the next game. You know, that's the hardest thing, boy. When you're doing sports like 82 and I was doing baseball. When I was doing baseball, I was doing 125 games for the Pirates. And they couldn't televise on Thursday nights and Saturday nights, which was National Game of the Week. So I was producing those for Fox. So I was flying out, doing a Thursday game, come back to Friday, go back to Sunday. It was stupid. I was ready to take a gun to my head. It's like too many events. I was 300 some events in 1 year.
Wow.
But you got to learn. I root for my teams. Like I'm a Grizzly guy. I'm a Penn State guy. I root for my teams. I want them to win and lose. When I go in and do a game for ACC Network, I'm doing Duke and whatever. You know, I don't have a rooting interest. So I would like to just know this, both of them. You know, root for them, root for the underdog. You know, there's things you look for, the things you're playing in. Chuck Hart. I'll leave you with this. Chuck Hart. I went up to him one day, and Chuck was not a guy he wasn't your father. He wasn't, you know, going to pat you on the back. He was going to rip you a new rear end. Usually, most times you saw him. He's a wonderful guy, though. He taught you a lot. Andy Sedaris was a great director with a team because he would ignore him. Andy taught me so many things with his chains, and his button-down shirt and all this stuff. I mean, he taught me so much, but Chuck always picked the player of the game. A lot of people didn't know that before the game was even played. We didn't have much resources then, cameras and tape machines. So he would pick, say, a linebacker. He's going to be really good. He's an All-American. That guy might have had one damn tackle the whole game, but he was going to be player of the game because we had a lot of footage of him, that kind of story. I asked him, I said, why do you do this? He says, cause, and he explained to me, we don't have, the resource. Back then we didn't. Now, every camera's recorded, every angle is covered. If we miss it, it's because we didn't see it in the truck. We didn't have enough eyes to see it because we have like hidden channels on these things where like I'll put in, like the other night when Brevin wanted that angle, that was an angle that was buried in a machine. So we had to go back and get it. And when we got it, we're like, oh my God, Brevin, but he sees that, like you were saying about what you call Romo, seeing things. I've worked with a lot of guys like that. Brian Baldinger. If in football, it's for some reason, it seems like it's offensive linemen that see it a lot, or quarterbacks. They see what's going on before it happens. I mean, Kirk Herbstreit's pretty good at seeing what's happening before it happens. Plus, he's got that relationship with his producer to give him. And that's Billy Bunnell, who used to be a font coordinator for me when he was at Syracuse. And he sees it and gets it back for him. I mean, another funny, I put in my book, Sandy Montage. He was a kid at Syracuse. That son of a gun, he was stats guy for me on Big East basketball. Okay. He comes in the truck one day and I'm showing Len Berman and Bill Rafferty the tees. All of a sudden, this smart ass kid, he's like a junior in college. I wouldn't have done a tease like that. That sucks. I turned to him and said, what the hell, blah, blah,
Who's this
and now
guy?
da, 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 da. It's like when Bill Rafferty, I love how these guys tell all these wonderful stories about how, he started working for them and he hired him and all that. I was executive producer of the Big East Network. Bill got fired. I get a call from Paul Carlson. I said, Paul, who are we going to put as our second analyst? Because we had Ron Perry and we had Dave Gavitt at the time. I said, I need another 6-7 games for an analyst. He goes, well, why don't we use Bill Rafferty? Let's try him. He just got fired. He said, it worked with Dick Vitale. Why don't we, let's try this. Tell you what, let's hire him. So I hired him. I hired Bill Rafferty to do a couple games. He does 3 or 4 games. Paul calls me, what do you think? I said, let's get him for like 16, 17 games.
Wow.
Get him more. I still see Bill to this day. I got to work with him when Terry went to CBS, Terry Eward. I got to do, March Madness for them. I produced, whatever game, I don't know, Boise, whatever the regional. It's fun. It's great doing all that shit. Put this way, I didn't get the Big Apple, but I got damn close to it all the time. I didn't do the Super Bowl, but I did the preview show. I didn't do the national championship basketball, but I got to do the preview shows, and I got the shows that lead up to it. It's there. And one last thing. I told some of the people last week, Atlanta Braves win the World Series. I tell the production people, because I know how hard they work to make that, enjoy it. Because you know what? I've been doing this for a long time. I've had 3 championships to be a part of. Enjoy every minute of it. I had 2 Penn State national championships, 82 and 86, and MLS Atlanta United 3 years ago. That's it. I've been in this around a long time. Gotten close, but never, you just don't get it in your career. And if you don't appreciate it, I had the same conversations with Pete. How far are you going to go, Pete? An old radio guy said the same thing to me. How far are you going to go in this business? I said, look at me. He goes, how many I want to be a play-by-play guy. He said, how many play-by-play guys make it? He says, less than 0.5%. I said, yeah, because they all want to do it. So I understood at a younger age, if you like something, maybe move that way. And I did. And it gave me an avenue to explore, all different sides of this business. But hey, without the wife, I talked to her this morning on the way down to babysit the kid. I said, there's days when I'm like, man, I wish I had your job. Yeah, you're babysitting my grandchildren. And what better could that be? She says, yeah, but then I got to go see mom and dad tonight too. And I said, yeah, I know. And then my other buddy calls me today. When are you retired? I said, I don't know. I said, where are you at? He goes, I'm at the golf course with we have a regular group that goes on Tuesdays when I'm in the off season at a little club we have that we go to. He says, your memberships do. Our membership at our club is $100.
Oh gosh.
You better give him your credit card and call him. So right before I went on with you, I called up there and said, hey, she's, oh, I knew who's calling. Tom, you got to pay your membership. It's $100 a share.
Okay.
And then we pay a reduced fee. I mean, it's a really lovely country club, but we're like regulars there, but I'm like, okay, there's some things I got to do at home, So anyways, about time to get to work, Brian. You too.
Hey, I could do this for longer, and let's do this again, because the storytelling here
Without a
is
doubt.
so riveting. It's so captivating. And I mean, just listening to you and being a sponge, it's priceless. And I think a lot of people are going to really enjoy these conversations. And
hey, you're hitting the right people. I don't know how you're finding them, but the Glenn Adamo, Glenn sat with
Glenn is
me.
amazing. Wasn't Glenn amazing? Glenn was awesome.
I flew to Beijing with Glenn sitting beside me. And then on the other side of me was Sager. And Sager wakes me up in the middle of the night on the plane. He goes, Tom. I said, what? He goes, there's still a case of beer left. Before we land in Beijing, because they're not going to give us beer right away. I'm like, okay, Segs, I'll get up with you. As soon as we land in Beijing, he goes, let's go to Shanghai tonight. I go, Shanghai? He goes, yeah, it's just a short shit. It's only like $200. We're going to see the national teams warming up down there. Our basketball team. I'm like, nope, I'm not going with you. I'm going to my hotel. I'm going to sleep. But no, Glenn was great. Janine is lover.
Yes, Janine with Bally.
She's an old David Hill person from Sydney, or I think Sydney. And I love her. She is good. Have a glass of wine with her someday. You'll love her.
I will. We're going to make
all of our
happen.
music, and she is a superstar. But people don't hear about people like that. I mean, she's good. She can give you a piece of music, hey, Janine, I need something like this, or I need this beat. She's back at you in 30 seconds. Here's this, use this, I mean, Sarge was like I said, Sarge was with me for like 11 years in the Big Ten, and he was my PA at Turner. So he's awesome. Who else do you have? You had,
Nick Davis came on.
Nick's my boy. See, I know Nick when he was an engineer, just when he got out of Purdue.
Wow.
WMT. He was an engineer on their TV truck, and Purdue, and I'd still kid him about that. But Nick, I'll probably hear from Nick tonight. Probably.
Do it. Yeah, I'm gonna post this afternoon/evening, and my goodness, this was so much fun, Tom. And I know you got a big game coming up tonight, so I want to let you get to that.
They're all big games.
They're all big games, but I just love hearing how you came from such humble beginnings and how you just kept at it, your dad's influence on you, the support system that you have with your family now, and how that is so important to make it in this business, to have people, even when you're away from them for so long, to say, hey, Tom, go do you, follow your aspirations and passions. We're going to be here. We're not going anywhere. That's priceless stuff. And I think
FaceTime's a good thing.
Yes.
And what's up, app? Because all my children have the wandering minstrel syndrome of mine. They love to see the world.
Yes.
I mean, they've been everywhere, and more stories for another time.
More stories for another time. We'll leave that as a tease. Tom Huet with Bally as director. He does work with so many different entities. I'm Bryan Fenley with Fox Sports Radio. Tom, this was so much fun. I learned so much about the business. I feel your passion. I love your stories of persistence. And at the core of everything for you, I feel like, is that relationship building and the amazing connections you've made with people that make what you do so meaningful and give you so much purpose to your life. Tom, appreciate you so much. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks, Brian. I'm gonna get to work.